Uh, First of all, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and I'd like to thank the Club of Rome for inviting us to this prestigious platform and allowing us to share our views on what we think is a very exciting opportunity for Kashmir, to be very frank, for Jammu, Kashmir, and Ladakh. So firstly, who are we? So I represent a company, Tanflora Infrastructure Park Limited. This was started in 2001 as a joint venture with the Tamil Nadu state government, with TIDCO. We were started with a 250 acres campus, about 50 kilometers from Bangalore city. And this was envisioned as the largest cut roses production facility in Asia at the time when it came up. This was based on a cooperative farming model where we had 54 hectares of area under greenhouses, which was portioned out into grower units, which were provided to various agricultural entrepreneurs. All the flowers that are produced in our campus are marketed under a single brand and are exported all over the world. And we are now in our 20th year. So a little introduction about the floriculture industry, for those who are not very familiar with it. At present, this industry is globally valued at about $55 billion, and it is estimated to reach $77 billion by the year 2026. Now, where in this does India stand? India has the largest area under floriculture cultivation in the world at 249,000 hectares, but India's contribution to the global floricultural export trade is less than 0.5%, which is for a variety of reasons and historical issues. The number one problem in India has been insecurity for farmers as far as water sources are concerned, primarily for the purpose of cultivation. There is also recently a drastic shortage of labor in the field due to the rapid urbanization of the rural areas of the country. But as far as Kashmir is concerned, we feel that Kashmir is a treasure trove of ideal agroclimatic conditions, which were always an issue in other parts of the country, which can be very easily addressed and which can be utilized for the overall economic development of the state. So I just wanted to highlight 3 points here. One is the Srinagar Tulip Garden. It came up recently, and it was, in our professional opinion, a wonderful proof of concept. It shows that tulip bulbs, which were hitherto a very exotic product in India, can be produced on a large scale, and they can be produced cheaply, and they can be produced at a very high quality, which is not something that was possible anywhere else in India. Only in Kashmir, this is possible. So that's just something I wanted to highlight. Secondly, I wanted to talk about bulbs as a product. Now, flower bulbs are an industry within floriculture, which are about $1 billion in worth. And this industry is overwhelmingly controlled by the Netherlands. They represent about 75% of all flower bulbs that are grown and produced all over the world. Any tulip, lilium, iris, crocus, any other bulb-based flower that is grown in India is grown from an imported bulb. And this imported bulb, you often spend maybe 15 to 25 rupees per bulb. And if some damage were to happen to this bulb in transit or any other issues occur, that is entirely the grower's problem. Now, what is required to produce flower bulbs? You need cold temperatures, you need plentiful water supply. That's it. You don't need anything else. And this is very easy to do in Kashmir. Kashmir can grow bulbs, Kashmir can export bulbs, Kashmir can provide bulbs to floricultural growers throughout the country. And this is it's a ready-made business model which is successfully done all over the world. And in India so far, the issues were agroclimatic, which Kashmir can very easily solve. So now I just want to talk about, so the topic that we are here about is industrial ecosystems for production, jobs, and livelihoods. And to address this, we have one very simple, straightforward model, which is agro-clusters. Now, agro-clusters are something which so far in India is still a nascent idea, but these have been very thoroughly explored in other parts of the world. These have been successfully implemented in Africa, in South America, in Southeast Asia, often in communities which have significant disadvantages, minorities, countries which have a troubled history with law and order. And a lot of these are success stories which have led to significant economic development at a very grassroots level. I'm just going to talk briefly about some of these examples a bit later, but firstly, what are agro-clusters? Now, there are many complicated definitions in many economic textbooks which talk about clusters and their role to play in their various industries, but we approach clusters with a simple question. What is the mantra of an Indian farmer? Typically, so far, the psyche of Indian farmers has been, first you produce, then you search markets to export. And when that happens, you are always dealing from a position of weakness, from disadvantage. So what clusters would achieve? Firstly, we identify suitable agroclimatic regions. The main important factors in agriculture always are your altitude, your temperature, availability of water, availability of labor. Also in floriculture, a fifth factor would be proximity to airports or ports or any other means by which you are able to then distribute what you have grown with so much hard work. And in India so far, we have always either compromised on altitude or we have either compromised on water. We have always compromised somewhere because proximity to airports, bringing down cost of production has always been a much larger priority for Indian agricultural entrepreneurs. Kashmir is a unique situation where you don't actually need to compromise on anything, which so far in India has not been the case in any meaningful way. So we are talking about clusters. Clusters would be regions in Kashmir Valley, in Jammu region. Ladakh, we still have to work on because they have a very short growing season, but in the other areas, we identify tracts of land, let's say between 300 to 400 hectares. We ensure that these areas are provided water for irrigation, electricity for operating cold storages, and road connectivity up to Srinagar airport to start with. And then we invite entrepreneurs from all over the country to come, set up, grow flowers or fruits and vegetables also, but I would stress flowers because it is a fact that flowers and floriculture provide the highest revenue to farmers on a per unit area basis across all agricultural products throughout the world. You start with food grains and you work your way up, you will find flowers provide the most revenue to the grower. So only when you have a cluster, only when you have a significant production localized in one area, does investment in infrastructure become meaningful for value addition. Now, yesterday I was here, I saw some people mentioning cold storages. Now, the current installed capacity of cold storages in Kashmir is around 63,000 metric tons, if I'm not wrong. And the present need for cold storages in the state is around 3.5 to 3.8 lakh metric tons. There are numerous projects which have been proposed by the government and are in various stages of implementation. But if we are looking at clusters as a meaningful way of promoting agriculture and floriculture in the state, that requirement may well exceed 6 to 8 metric tons. And this is something which has to be implemented. Now, instead of having remote cold storages all over the place, you'd rather just invest and achieve economies of scale by focusing your investments in a way that you are assured that there is a return on your investment. The resource that you are creating is being utilized and it is providing a benefit to the farmer who's actually putting all his work into this. And also, another point about clusters, why they are important to be discussed here and why they should be on the back of people's minds when you're talking about policy is that clusters usually come about because of government involvement. Clusters require government policy. We have seen examples in Mexico. By the way, India has a very large mango production, no doubt, but Mexico is the world leader in mango export, not India. India has a very large banana production, but India is not the leader in banana export. That honor goes to Ecuador. India has a very large floriculture production, but the world leader in export is Colombia. And in Colombia, it's a very good example, you have 79% of the country's flower production centered around the city of Bogota, in about 7,300 hectares, because that is where the majority of the transport takes place. Bogota Airport is a hub for flower export. So we've identified some areas. We have a more detailed report which we can share later. I think we're a little pressed for time, so I won't go into too much detail. But another point I want to mention is the availability of agricultural inputs. This is something that is an issue in Kashmir, and is something that needs to be addressed if we are able to proceed with a systematic upgradation of the agricultural community of the entrepreneurs in the state. And finally, there are other points to be looked at, such as the capital subsidies that are being offered for the entrepreneurs in the country. These need to be more focused on Kashmir, oriented to the unique geography of Kashmir. And essentially, we take a working model which is to be found all over the country, all over the world, in many disadvantaged countries who have been able to create success stories, and simply emulate that model in Kashmir, exploiting the unique agroclimatic conditions available in the state.
Right.
And yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you so much. That was